Welcome back to the ABC of EDC with me, Rick Flatt, your host through everything, Everyday Carry. Bit of an odd video today. This video is a cry for help, to be honest with you. This isn't me taking a watch that I fully understand and trying to show you the different facets of it and talk you through its specs. This is a mystery watch that I really don't know a lot about. And I want to show you some B-roll and talk through what I have learned about it. But really, this is a fact-finding mission. I need you to tell me more about this watch. How do we get this watch? A little while ago, someone in my family came to me and they said, Rick, we've got a couple of watches here. You're into watches. Can we give them to you? They belong to a family member who was a fair while ago now, passed on, is no longer with us. And I did what anyone would do in that situation. I was very gracious, said, yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, I'll have a look. The first one was this little Casio Wave Captor, it's called. And it's a very strange little Casio, not really my bag. I love a Casio, don't get me wrong. But this is the strangest Casio I've ever seen. It's got a metal bracelet, but the lugs are capped with plastic. And there seems to be like plastic inserts in different parts of the watch. Quite strange. Not running, needs a battery. Probably won't do much with that. And then the second watch was stranger still. It was clearly a dive watch, but the bezel didn't turn. And I just thought, and I looked at it, it too wasn't running. I thought, oh, whatever. Later on, maybe a day or two later, I'm in the studio here and I decide to have a proper look at the dive looking watch. And I found a couple of things that were very, very surprising. So I'd like to flip round and show you this watch and give you what I've learnt about it and put a plea out. I need more information about this watch. I need you watch wizards to get on board and help me sleuth this thing out. Anyway, let's spin around and we'll get into the good things, the bad things, and all the questions I've got about this watch. Oh, wow. Well, something went right in my eye then. Oh, something went right in my eye. Did you see that? I looked like I was having a weird fit. I wasn't. Something flew in my eye. Anyway, let's flip around and get on with this thing. Here it is. I'll put in some B-roll of this because we're going to need it, because as we're cleaning this thing up, I want to show you exactly how grubby it is. So this is the watch. You might understand looking at it how you can sort of dismiss it as maybe like it's quite a strange watch. Blue dial, yellow accents, white hands, white sort of outer dial there. Gold on the bezel, or gold colour, brass, copper, whatever, bronze. And then this, I think what the main thing that threw me when I first was handed this watch was the strap. It's one of those, wow, one of those super stretchy watches, like watch straps you get. Like if you ever buy a really cheap watch somewhere, on holiday, you're in Europe somewhere and you buy a sort of cheap watch, this is what you get. And what I did actually when I got it, I thought, what is this watch? And like you do with any watch when someone passes it to you, you just throw it on wrist. And I threw it on wrist and I thought, oh my gosh, get ready for the hair pull. I actually wore this for a whole day. It looks terrible. We're getting rid of it. But let me tell you something. Might be the most comfortable bracelet I've ever worn. It doesn't pull on there's no hair. I can run it up down the whole arm and pull it around. It never, ever catches a hair. Looks kind of weird, though. It is, in my mind, and definitely too small for the lugs. And, it's just not the look we want in a... I know people are into kind of retro watches and stuff at the moment, but it's not the look we want. So we'll be getting rid of that, swapping it out in the first instance for a NATO. The brand name there at the 12 o'clock is Balza, and then it has Balza Automatic, and then down at 6 o'clock it has 20 ATM, 21 rubies, and lets you know it's a Inca block. Yeah, Inca block. So I guess that's something to do with the design of the case, the manufacturing process. The most interesting thing for me is right down, and like I say, I'm gonna have to macro this, and this camera's just not gonna pick it up. Right down at the very bottom of the dial at 6 o'clock here, it says Swiss made. Swiss made. We'll have a look. We'll take the back off this in a minute and we will have a little look at it. But we need to get rid of this bracelet. I mean, look at it. I don't know if you can see in that bracelet, it's just dirt, it's probably old skin, all sorts of stuff. So man, you know, got to get rid of that. So first things first, we'll whip this bracelet off. So let me just grab a little cloth. I am not a super professional at this kind of thing. I essentially, like you, would take a normal spring bar and I would jam it in there as best I can. And then pop off. Oh, there goes the spring bar. Come back here, you. And again, in case you've never done this, I imagine you have, you just get your little spring bar tool on the spring bar. You have to wedge it in a little bit. That's it. Get it out. And boom, there we are. So there is one bracelet gone. And now we have just the head of this watch. Like I say, I'll put in some B-roll of just how skanky this watch is, how much dirt there is everywhere on it. And if you can see on the crystal there, the crystal is really, really beaten up. There's a bunch of scratches on there. And that's where our little friend, Polywatch, not a sponsor of the channel here, but Polywatch. If you've got any non-sapphire, and this doesn't feel like sapphire, it feels like acrylic. So if you've got some acrylic, this thing here, you rub it on a little bit, get it in all the little grooves, and then use another kind of clean cloth just to polish it off. That will remove a whole bunch of sins from your acrylic glass. We'll be doing that. So here is the head of the watch. Let's do some basic specifications. It's very hard to get a measure on this because of the shape of that case, but it's around 42 and a bit, maybe 43. The actual bezel itself here is 37 mil. It's just over 12 mil thick, 12.4, 12.5, something like that. The lugs are 20. The lugs are 20. The crown is 6 mil. What is the lug to lug actually? That's one thing I didn't do. I think it's got quite a small lug to lug, I imagine. Yeah, it's a lug to lug of just under 45, just under 45. So very, very small lug to lug, which makes it very wearable. So moving on to a bit of the process of cleaning. Took myself a little cocktail stick or toothpick and just started to work away at some of this kind of really stubborn grime that had built up around the crown and around the edge of where the glass meets the bezel. It's a lot of fun doing this and hard to film, but very satisfying. If you're someone who likes to pick away at things like this, it is very satisfying as it kind of crunches away. And interesting little noises that come from just scraping away, knowing you can't damage it, but you can remove it. Listen to this. It's just good fun. I then got my case back removal tool and tried to take the back off. At first it wouldn't go, it was really stubborn, and I realised that the little heads on it on my device were wrong, so I changed them out. But even then, could not get it to budge. This thing was crazy stiff. Crazy stiff. This thing is solid. I'm going to have to take this to someone else or buy a different tool. I just can't get that case back off, and it's frustrating because I would love to get a look at the movement. Let's now apply a little bit of Polywatch. So as you can see, you've got you probably can't see, but I'll cut in B-roll. This is scratched, crazy scratched. So we're going to simply take a little bit of poly. Let's get a little bit of poly on there. It's not a crazy amount, but yeah, get a fair amount on there. I'm just going to get a cloth, 1 second. That's it. So just get your cloth and just work it into the glass. My understanding is that Polywatch kind of fills those cracks and gets into those cracks, gives it a really good clean, gets beyond that, just that top surface. You give it, it's going to smudge up a little bit, should kind of come up a little bit, but then take a good polishing cloth, and really what you want to do now is really work it, really get in there and give it some whirly. Wow. I mean, already with just one little application of Polywatch, it might be hard to see on this camera, but I'll do it before and after. That is already really come up. Now, there's a deep scratch right over the center of the dial, which I don't think I can feel it with my nail. There's no amount of Polywatch that's going to undo that. But I think what we'll do, we'll give it another little dollop of Polywatch, shall we? Because why not, eh? What else are we doing on a Saturday afternoon? But sitting in the studio, doing a bit of polywatchering. I don't know if that's a thing. Anyway, we'll just work this in. Huh? Hold the fort. The bezel's moving. The bezel is moving. Now, I might have said in my intro that the bezel doesn't move, but obviously it does. I think this bezel was so gunked up with rubbish and so just not been moved for years. Because originally when I got this watch, I thought, oh, mate, that's brilliant. Originally when I got this watch, I thought someone's messed with the dial. Someone switched something out because the dial felt fixed. It had no ratchet to it, and it was off center at the top. It was misaligned. Oh, let's just wipe this polywatch off, and then we'll get to trying to loosen up this bezel a little bit. So I'll grab the can of WD-40, which is kind of an invasive lubricant, sprayed it on the watch. Not sure it was great for the watch, but it seemed to be all right. Put it in this little vise and started to vigorously move it back and forth, and it started to free up. Happy days, bezel action. Things are definitely looking better. Let's chuck a couple of new spring bars on this thing. It's well worth, if you're a watch guy, get yourself a little box full of spring bars. Let's put these spring bars in. If you've never put spring bars in a watch, I know what to tell you. It's very easy. There's a little hole there. Put that in. It's very simple. You just decompress down on the edge of the spring. It pops in, and then Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. You got a brand new spring bar. Now I happen to have a 20mm black NATO strap, and I'm going to try out some different things on this watch, but just for now, keep it neutral, keep it simple. So here it is. Now, from the moment I first glimpsed it on this sort of terrible sort of springy bracelet to where it is now, which is cleaned up a little bit, clean the glass, clean the watch head a little bit, freed up that bezel, so the bezel is now moving, which is nice. Always love the use of a dive time bezel. Put on this black NATO. I really like it. There's something about this watch I just really like. I love those white stick hands. I love that blue dial. I love those yellow markers. Even the date window, which normally bothers me, and it's got a yellow surround on it and everything, doesn't bother me. I love the blue bezel insert with the gold numerals and markers. I just really like this watch. It's so unusual. It's such an unusual watch. So here is the watch so far after all of our hard work today. We cleaned up that case using a toothpick and a few other bits and bobs. Give it a good scrub. We also cleaned the glass up using that poly watch. We also freed up the bezel, which I'm very happy about. There's nothing I hate more than not having a bezel working properly or being misaligned on a watch. Now, I just want to ask you a favour, if you wouldn't mind doing something for me. I want to find out more about this watch. Let me tell you what I do know. It's a company called Bowser. The design was borrowed from another company called Yenny. It's written Jenny, pronounced Yenny. And that was the Yenny C-Lab 913. That's the watch this watch is kind of based on. And that watch, or rather that company, Yenny, is a sister company to this company, Doxa. So you have Doxa, then you have this sister company, Yenny, and then you finally have this company borrowing Yenny's design for this watch. I don't know anything more about it than that. I think it's around 1968 sort of circa, around there, late 60s. I know that Inca block, earlier on I said that I thought that there's a bit of text on the bottom of the watch here says Inca block. I thought that was something to do with the design or the manufacture of the case. It's not. It's a suspension movement for components within the movement. So I want to know more information about this watch. Have you got one of these? Have you seen one of these before? Do you know about Yenny? Do you know about the C-Lab 913? What information can you give me about this watch? What's the value of these watches? Were these 2 a dozen or are they rarer? I really just don't know. And I don't think I'd ever sell it on because of I like the thought of having a vintage watch that's 50 years old. Its sentimental value belong to someone in the family. This is a cry for help. Please help me. My dog grunting in the background. Help me find out more about this watch. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's not been too long. I thought it'd be nice just to kind of dork around with it for a while. I was going to do it and then just show it to you in this condition, but I thought it'd be nice to show you a little bit of the process. Anyway, this has been the ABC of EDC. I've been Rick Flatt, your host. Till next time, take care of yourselves. Laters.